you go.
So how do you protect yourself from that in the future? And this is what I've seen and what I've learned, and that is that people talk. We can go with sponsors that we are friends with, that we trust, that we believe in, and that's a lot easier to do now that we're 4 or 5 years in. I believe very strongly in coaching programs, mentorships, masterminds, because you're going to get where you need to get faster when you can learn from other people's mistakes. So if you only talk to your investors a couple times a year, just make sure that you can pick up the conversation where it left off.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Life by Design podcast. Today we have a really special guest. Her name is Angel Williams. For those of you who are teachers, you guys will appreciate it. She taught for 17 years before going into real estate full-time. Her husband is a chemical engineer, and they're both phenomenal operators in the North Texas, Wichita Falls area. And the reason why I have her on the show is because she was a teacher. She quit her W-2. She has 4 kids. She's a mom. She's a wife. And for those of you who think that you have to do either one or the other, it's not true. You can actually do both. You just have to be able to time manage. Angel talks about the mistakes that she's made, right? She talks about getting the right mentorships, partnerships, investor relations. So if you want to hear more about that, make sure you watch the whole podcast. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Life by Design podcast. We are honored to have Angel Williams here. She went from being a teacher, still a teacher, but now a complete professional in real estate. So, Angel, tell me a little bit more about how you've gotten to this point so far.
All right. So I was in, let's see, well, first off, I grew up in a family that invested in real estate. My grandparents raised me, and they had a small real estate portfolio, a small trailer park, a little fourplex of apartments, some single family homes. So I grew up watching what they were doing. And then my husband grew up in a family that invested in residential multis, so duplexes, quads, triplexes. And so both of us watched what it was like to invest in real estate. And then I finished up my master's degree in 2003. There were no jobs. And I had moved to Lubbock with Jason. And I found a job teaching like 4th and 5th grade in a combined classroom at a private school.
Okay.
And I got my certificate that summer through an alternative certification program and began teaching public school the following year. So that would have been 2004.
2004.
Yeah,
How
2003
long
was
did
when
you
I
teach
started.
for?
And I was in and out of K through 12 in various roles for about 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, while you were going through real estate, were you investing at the same time, or did you quit teaching first and then went into real estate?
So Jason and I have been in residential real estate for about 20 years on our own. We've got 6 singles, a quad, a couple of duplexes, and then we have a 72 unit multi, and we're about to close on another 88 unit.
Wow,
So we
that's
just
exciting.
kept doing that the whole time. I did not quit teaching until 2020. And so it was always kind of not necessarily a side gig, but it was a side gig, because we still had W-2s. I resigned from teaching in 2020. I still teach adjunct, college econ, but it's not a full-time job. And then Jason stopped his full-time job in, it would have been June 30th of 2022.
June 30th of 2022. What did he do?
He was a senior thermo research and development engineer. Yeah, he was doing lots of things that were way over my head. So
Awesome. Now, where do you guys live now?
we are in North Texas, but not Dallas Fort Worth. We're about 2
Okay.
hours from Dallas Fort Worth. We're in Wichita Falls. It's actually the largest NATO Air Force base in the U.S.
How did you guys end up there?
So Jason finished up his doctorate in '06, and this was where there was a job. And so this is where we moved.
Hey, that's awesome. Where the job brings you guys, right? Now, do you and Jason mainly invest in your local area? Do you guys invest outside, out of state?
So it kind of depends. We're passive investors too. So the passive investor stuff, I think most of it is in Texas, if not all of it. I know we were looking at a couple of different investments that were out of state, and I honestly don't know if we got into them or not because you have to have the letter to show that you're accredited, and getting those is not quick and easy. So I don't remember if we got it in time to get into one. And the one I'm thinking of would have been, it was like an industrial flex, and it was definitely out of state. So we all of our LP stuff may be in state. For the stuff that we do on the active side, it's either where we have once lived or where we currently live. So we really enjoy being investing in our backyard because then we can actively see it and participate and look at what's going on, and we don't have to worry about it not being taken care of.
Now, were you guys already investing in LP deals before you got into the active, or did you start active first?
No, we started LP side first, and I think a lot of people do that. We had a few LP deals down before we decided to go active side.
Now, at the beginning, for a lot of early investors, even being an LP can be kind of scary, right? How did you and Jason get the confidence to go in and say, you know what, I'm going to invest with this operator, or I'm going to just jump in?
So ignorance is bliss. If we knew now, or if we knew then what we know now, we probably never would have invested.
Really?
Yeah,
Why is that?
because now we are much more careful. We're going to vet the team a lot better. We're going to look at the operators, and we didn't do that as much in the beginning. So, I mean, we've never lost, like, I guess, nominal money in a deal. We've definitely lost real money when you're thinking in real terms, because we could have put our money in a different deal and made about, 5 million times as much. Not really 5 million, but we wound up with a 1.1x on one deal, and it was supposed to be like a 2.3.
Mm.
So we could have, 2x'd it somewhere else. So I think now we're a lot more careful. But part of that is I tend to be a little impulsive, and so we probably didn't
What
do what we needed to do.
now this is really good for people to hear because sometimes our mistakes we absolutely learn from it, and other people can learn from it as well. Let me ask you this. Have you known what you know now? How would you have vetted this sponsor or operator differently?
That's a question I ask myself a lot because I get really frustrated. And this particular team looks amazing on social media. And the deal penciled. So how do you protect yourself from that in the future? And this is what I've seen and what I've learned, and that is that people talk. And when you're first starting out, you don't want to look green. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. So instead of actually taking the time to get into those conversations with other people, you kind of pretend like you don't need that information, like you already know it. And that's a real bad move. Go ahead and admit the fact that you don't know, because people are going to open up to you about different operators and sponsor teams, and you're going to save yourself from a lot of mistakes. And it doesn't make you look like a beginner. It makes you look really smart to be making those moves and going ahead and vetting those teams out, because you need to be doing that. And the further and longer you're in the space, the more you realize we all vet one another. We're all talking about one another, and people that look amazing on social media and may have a great maybe speak great from stages, that doesn't mean that they're good at operating a property. And so just make sure you're talking to people, and it actually makes you look really experienced and very intelligent. So
So this specific property, it was bought correctly with the right price, financing was good, but then the operations and management, you think, kind of fell off the boat? What specifically do you think could have gone better in operation wise?
Um, they could have backfilled. So no backfill took place. All of the CapEx was funded from cash flow. There were just things that it was the management side of things. It was like the business plan was followed, but it wasn't funded correctly. And so
Mm,
that was not good. And even when we found out about what was going on, it didn't mean we could fix it. And the deal had already sold by the time we learned that the LPs can get together and they can vote somebody off the GP team, which it should be in your paperwork. It'll tell you how to get a hold of the other LP members so that you can
right.
actually take care of things when things start going crazy. But none of us knew that. And it was, again, you live, you learn. We could have lost everything. At least we didn't lose everything, but we did lose in real terms. So,
Yeah, that is the scary side or the risk side that a lot of people don't talk about, right? So I'm really glad that you're bringing it up and we're diving into it. And nowadays, what is your vetting process on a sponsor?
so I mean, we know so many more people now than when we
Mhm.
first got started. And I'm just going to ask around. I'm probably not going to ask the sponsorship team for referrals because who are they going to refer me to? They're going to refer me to the people that are going to say the best things about them.
Of course.
So I'm probably just going to start asking around. And now that we've been in this for a little bit too, we can go with sponsors that we are friends with, that we trust, that we believe in. And that's a lot easier to do now that we're 4 or 5 years in. At the beginning, that luxury may not be allotted to you.
Right. No, I feel the same way. I mean, working with different sponsorship teams, for me, it's the relationship.
Mhm.
Either the relationship that you're able to build with people, can you trust them? Like, would you trust them with your family, right? Because we're all building generational wealth here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now let me ask you this. You now being a sponsor yourself and an operator yourself,
Mhm.
right? What do you do to exude that trust from LP investors?
Um, so I'm probably a little crass, if that's the right term to use, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things. And whether it's in a virtual meetup, face to face meetup, conference, whatever, I'm probably going to be the same every single time you see me because I'm not going to change who and what I am. And so that consistency is something that has really gotten us far because I don't know, I like to wear t shirts and jeggings. I like to wear blue jeans when they fit. Uh,
Mhm.
but that's my comfort zone. Like we went to a Christmas party and I was like, I have to dress up. And I'm like searching for clothes. I'm like, do I even have anything dressy that fits? And I finally found something and it took me like 30 minutes to figure out what I was going to wear. But because that's just not how I dress. That's not me. I like to be comfortable. And so it was kind of funny. And I'm surprised I didn't get any questions at this Christmas party. Like, you have nice clothes. What? But I think that just being consistent and not trying to reach outside of yourself.
Mhm.
And that's something else too. Like I've gone to conferences and I've been at events where people all around me are in suits and I am literally in a t-shirt and jeggings. And a friend of mine walked up to me. He's like, Angel, hey. And I was like, I feel so underdressed. And he told me, he said, if you were wearing anything else, nobody would recognize you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that made me feel really good, and way more comfortable. But I, I don't know. I don't think I should need to change what I wear or change how I do my hair or, cause like my hair is blue and purple. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think I should have to change those things, um, in a space that I've been in my whole life.
right. At the beginning, when you first started out, did you get any mentorships?
We did. And I believe very strongly in coaching programs, mentorships, masterminds, because you're going to get where you need to get faster when you can learn from other people's mistakes. Because if you have to sit back and you have to make all those mistakes on your own, it's going to take a whole lot of time. And we're in this to scale. We're not in this to build like a pyramid with no kind of with no kind of like mechanics or anything to help me along the
No
way.
foundation, right?
Absolutely.
And that's something I saw on a reel recently where people are like, well, you can get this for free, right, on YouTube and this and that. And someone else mentioned, well, you could do that, but you're not going to have the connections that you're going to need and the relationships that you're going to build to propel you forward much faster. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. And honestly, you get what you pay for. You want to do YouTube University? Go for it. But by getting into a coaching program, we gained an entire circle of people that we might have been able to build those relationships, but it would have taken way, way longer than the way it worked out once we were in a coaching program.
That's awesome. Now, what is the ultimate goal for you and Jason in terms of real estate?
So, as far as like what we own here in our hometown, we would like to own, five, six, seven, eight, 10 properties here, and kind of be the king and queen of Wichita Falls when it comes to multifamily.
There you go.
But I'd also like to see us get to where we can branch out some and we can go to other
Mhm.
places. And I mean, I'm kind of spoiled to having our properties here in our backyard because if there's something that's going sideways, I can just drive there. Everything's within 15 minutes here. So I really like that. But at the same time, I think that there is a kind of strength that happens when you learn to manage from afar as well.
Hmm.
So that may be a goal. Maybe,
That's from afar. You need a definitely a good team.
yeah. So it would
Yeah.
be learning how to trust our team, and there'd be a lot of things. I think those are some good growth ideas. Or maybe it would be branching out into other asset classes. I don't know. We're really happy where we are right now.
Now, in terms of property management, since everything is local, do you guys find third-party property management, the same property management, different ones? How do you guys do that?
So for our residential stuff, of course, we have a different property manager, and he manages all of our residential stuff here. And then we've gone with a third party property management company for our multis. And our hope is to keep that same property management company for several of them. When we get enough, maybe three, four properties, we might look at creating our own property management company. One of the guys on our team does have a property management company in both Rhode Island and Florida. So he's got the experience and the intelligence and the knowledge to be able to run a company like that. And it could make sense. It's probably going to make sense once we're at three or four properties because we'll be able to do it a little easier. We'll have some economies of scale going on there. And so it could be a very smart move to go with an in-house property management company at that point.
That's what I hear a lot of people do once they get to a certain point and it makes sense, they vertically integrate.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is even just getting the right reports, getting the reports you want. Because that's the part that gets me. So I'm like, wait, the last company had a P&L that I could look at, and I can't find this one, and I don't know what to do. And because I
Right.
like some people can put the numbers together from different places. I need to see them all in one place, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So I'm kind of just resigned to the fact that I'm gonna have to let somebody else on the team take that part and
Mm.
explain it to me because I'm not following right now.
No, understood. Now, as a operator on the GP side, doing your own deals, how many years have you done it now?
We got our first one across the finish line in December of 21. So very, very similar to what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
And this one's our second. And we've been lead sponsors on both.
awesome, awesome. If you can share, between these two,
Mhm.
what are some biggest learning points that you have learned, whether it's the acquisition side, the investor relations side? Tell me a little bit more. What are some golden nuggets here?
Um, wow. So I would first say keep a relationship with your investors going the whole time. Because it gets awkward when you call and it's only every time you call, it's because you're raising money. So make sure that
Mm.
you've kept your investors warm. So some of our warmth came from, hey, you didn't sign up on the portal, your distribution bounced again. Um, but that was one way that we got to keep them warm. So I would suggest that. And then I would also suggest keeping a relationship with some other property management companies because we got to experience a property management company dissolving.
Mm.
That wasn't fun, which means that during that period of time, I also felt like I had to be more involved on site, which broke chain of command, which meant I had to have a very uncomfortable conversation with our property manager to get things back on track. And
Hmm.
I wound up in a situation that I did not want to be in because there is some on-site, I don't even, on-site drama that happens that takes a very specific kind of person to deal with, and that person is not me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Property drama. Now, tell me more on the investor relations, Angel. How do you keep that investor relations throughout the whole year and not just go after them? Hey, I got a new property. You ready to invest? How do you do that?
Yeah, so we have a virtual meetup where we meet every Monday. It's called the Marvelous Mondays Meetup, and a lot of our investors are also active syndicators. And so they come to the meetup, and when I'm stressed out, I talk. I talk anyway, but when I'm stressed, I talk about what I'm stressed about too. And so if you are one of our investors and you were coming to the Marvelous Mondays meetup during the after party, you got to hear all sorts of stuff. But that's been one of the beauties of having a virtual meetup is that it keeps the relationship going there. Another thing that I usually talk about is just continuity of story. So if you only talk to your investors a couple times a year, just make sure that you can pick up the conversation where it left off. So if you think about
Mm,
friends you had when you were growing up, you may not talk for a decade, but when you get back on the phone, you don't miss a beat
right.
because you've been friends for so long. And you want it to be like that with your investors too. So you want that continuity of story so it doesn't feel like, wait, who are you? You want to make sure that you know about their hopes, their dreams, their family. And even if that means that you need to go recon them on Facebook or LinkedIn to find out what's going on in their lives, make sure you do it because they need to know how important they are to you. And I think that's where that continuity of story really comes in play.
Mm, that relationship is huge. Now, what's going from business? What does family life look like for you?
So we've got 3 girls and a boy. Our son has a really rare disease. When he was first diagnosed, there were 742 cases in the world.
Mm,
Now they're saying there's probably about 1,400. So he gets a lot of care. He gets a lot of therapies. And our girls are now all three at the same private school. And so they're getting more freedom in learning. And they're getting to have a different experience now, too. And I think that that was the smart move for us because I think that all of Anson's care was it's hard on a typical child in a family with a special needs family member because it's not that they get dropped to the wayside, it's that they get a different kind of attention. And
hmm.
so then they're acting out, they're doing all sorts of stuff to get more attention. And by our 3 girls being in a STEM school now, it's a private school, they're getting a different kind of attention from their teachers because there's not that many kids in each class. And so that was one of the moves we made so that they could get more of the attention and learning and freedom of learning that they needed. Because
Mm,
having been a public school teacher, one of the things that would really frustrate me was the way that they seemed to want to just keep breaking my kids' spirits, like trying to
hmm.
pound them into these round holes when they're not round pegs. And so that was one of the things I really liked about our kids being in the private school now. And so I've been able to talk to my daughter now, my oldest one. We're talking about adding vending machines to the properties for an additional stream of income and having her run them. And we
That's
couldn't have
awesome.
had that conversation a few years ago with her still being in public school because she didn't have she didn't have the bandwidth to even think like that because it's just such a different environment. And so we're working now, we have more time and our girls are they're acting differently because they're getting more of the attention they need at school. And so now we can talk more freely about, hey, this is what we're wanting to create for our family. This is what we're doing. We drive by the properties. The girls get to see them. My girls may or may not go swimming at the different places that we have. And I may or may not have coached them on what to say if someone says, well, what unit do you live in? So but I like the fact that they can touch it, they can be there, they can see it, and they can interact with it, because I think it makes
Right.
it more real for them. And so that's another benefit of investing in our backyard.
That's phenomenal because having our children involved, right, in what we do is ultimately, I think, every main sponsor real estate investor's goal, because we're doing it not just for us, we're doing it partially for them as well, set them up for success.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I don't want us to be, was it shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations?
Hmm.
I don't want that. I want our girls to understand that we are working together to create this. And when we're no longer here, it's their job to continue creating it. And we want to make sure that we're leaving enough wealth so that they don't ever have to do anything but love their brother and maintain where he's at as far as like what the standard of care is. So we are working to set up his trust to have enough in it so that they literally don't have to worry about any of his medical costs or any of the costs related to his care. All they have to do is love him and continue to create the wealth that we have started right now.
That's it. Wow, that's huge what you're doing for the kids, no doubt. It's great that they're understanding. How old are the kids, by the way?
So our youngest is 6.
Uh-huh.
Our 7-year old is the middle. Well, she's the middle girl, and then Anson is 12, and Julianne is 15.
Oh, yeah. That's great. So the 15, she's able to kind of oversight.
Yeah, she's unique. She's unique.
Hey, we're all unique in our own ways, right?
Well, we all are, and sometimes I look at Anson, and that's our son. And it's like he is so easy compared to the other girls, and he's the one
Mm,
that's so medically needy. And it's if Jacqueline was in here right now, that's our 6-year-old. Her little voice is so tiny because she's so little, and she doesn't stop talking. And I'm just like, oh my lord.
right. I can relate to that. My daughter's 10 years old and she can talk.
Yep.
She'll be watching a movie and then she'll just be yapping. I was like, are you watching a movie? What's going
And then
on?
she'll be able to tell you what was going on in the movie later, even though she was talking the whole time. Yep.
The whole time.
I,
Right.
I mean, my kids come from it naturally. They're just like me. It's like Angel 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0.
There you go.
So they are little me's. Uh, so I can't get too angry. But that's probably why it gets so frustrating because it's like I'm facing myself in the mirror.
Now, moving towards 2023,
Mm-hmm.
I know you got to close out this property, right?
Yes.
What are some other goals that you have moving forward that you guys have thought about that you and Jason have planned out?
We've got a couple more properties here in town that we're looking at. 2 for sure, maybe 3. So we might get 2 more next year, might get 3 more. I don't know what we're gonna do. Um, we're getting more secure in our capital raising abilities and in our team. So I think we're settling in on a pretty good collection as far as our team goes. Jason's sister and brother-in-law have come on board with us. They are both trained in chemical engineering also. They're the ones that are really having to trust us because they're out of country.
Oh, wow.
And so, oh yeah, their kids go to boarding schools here, but they live in Saudi. So they really had to trust the team, and I don't imagine that they would have been able to come onto a team if it wasn't with Jason and I.
Absolutely.
So they're able to get this experience without the same level of necessary trust as, say, somebody that's living overseas and dealing with a GP team in the U.S. and they're not related the same way. So
No,
having
that's
family on
that's
the
huge.
a big deal.
Who does the underwriting in the team?
Jason does.
Jason does.
Yeah,
The
Jason
chemical
actually. Yeah,
engineer.
he actually coded. He coded our entire spreadsheet.
Wow.
Yeah, he almost had a computer science degree, or maybe he did have a double major. I forget. But he's done a lot of coding. When he was at his W-2, he did a lot of coding. the source code for some different lines and stuff. And
That's what I realized is that a lot of really good underwriters, their W-2s were also engineers.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah,
they're good with sitting down, let's crunch the numbers, you know.
yeah. Well, and he loves that spreadsheet. It makes me want to vomit. I see all these numbers everywhere. I'm just like, ugh. But like yesterday, because when you're in the heat of the crunch of a capital raise, you are meeting 7 days a week with people. You're on phone calls,
Hmm.
you're in meetings, you're walking people through the portal. Well, we had several meetings yesterday, and he was so tired. He was like, I just want to get into this spreadsheet. I need to work on this underwriting stuff. I need to do something else. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you just don't know how exhausting those meetings are for me. And I was like, I don't have any, I mean, I understand what it's like for him, but for me, I could be in
You get
meetings all day long.
energized.
I do.
Yeah, I'm the same
I
way.
love
I
being
get
around people.
energized. Let's go.
Yeah, but he gets absolutely exhausted. It's very hard for him. So he had
Wow.
a tough day
No,
yesterday.
it's my wife is the same way. She when she goes to a seminar and she's meeting with different people, somewhere either the first day or the second day, she's like, I just need to go upstairs and just chill for a little bit, have
And
some me time. I was like, okay, I'll be here till like 9 o'clock at night.
yeah, no, at the big conferences, I can go till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then my body wakes
Yeah,
up without an alarm at like 6 in the morning for me to start getting ready and getting
you're
down there.
ready to go.
Yep. I take my special like compression socks. I do all of those things. I limit my liquids because I want to be talking to people as much as I can be.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, are you going into any conferences this coming year?
We're doing our best to figure out how both me and Jason can make it to Best Ever in Salt Lake City
Okay,
in March. That is one of my absolute favorites. I went last year by myself because he couldn't make it,
right.
and it was awesome. It was so much fun. And then I went to well, sort of crash Steelmaker in the evenings. And then I'm only 2 hours away from DFW, so it's pretty
That's
easy
true.
for me to just drive 2 hours and hang out at the restaurant or the bar or the hotel and network with people that way. Because I don't want to say I don't need to hear what's in the rooms, but I
Right.
get so much more out of the networking that I don't go into the presentations. I don't go into the rooms because I'm getting so much more out of just talking to people in the hallways.
That's it. That face-to-face interaction is you can't exchange that for anything.
Not at
No.
all.
I hope to meet you in person one day, you know?
It'll happen. It'll eventually happen.
Yeah. Now, I have one last question,
hmm
Angel. If you were to do this all over again,
hmm
or maybe you're speaking to someone who is just starting out where you were, say, 5, 7 years ago, what would you have done differently, and what would you tell this new person to do um, right off the bat? Something that you didn't do.
Oh wow. So I would probably say find out where you're comfortable. If you're comfortable in single family homes, then figure out the way to move faster in single family homes because that's really what it is. It's moving faster with what you're comfortable with.
Hmm.
Because had we moved faster, we would have seen better results. Because like we bought our first home in 2003. It became our first rental in 2007, and then like 2010ish, we bought a couple more. Then this past year, we got a couple more, or 2 years ago. And once you find what you love, just do it faster. Figure out how to get it done quicker. If that means getting partners on board, get some partners on board. Learn about JVs. Learn about ways to just get more under your belt faster. Because
Hmm.
we were very slow. And I mean, we're slow now. We're doing a deal a year, really?
Hey, that's how people know you're doing great deals, right?
Okay.
You do your due diligence. Maybe it's that.
Maybe I think it's just I think part of it is a little bit of apprehension and fear.
Hmm.
And if you're moving faster, you don't have time to sit in that.
That's true. You don't have time. You just come laser focused. How would you have move faster?
Partnering with someone,
Right.
Instead of think like with the residential, you think I have to do this alone because you are doing it alone. But I've
Mhm.
met people now in the past, even the past 6 months, that they partnered up in single family homes, and within a year they had 100 single family homes. Well, 100 single family homes is life changing. So, I
Mm.
mean, if we had understood that people partner even in residential, we would have gotten more success out of residential. So, just realize
That's
that,
awesome.
I mean, get a mentor first. And whatever you're doing, get a mentor. And then just realize that there's lots of ways to move faster and it doesn't have to just be you alone.
Right. So get a mentor, move faster, partner up with the right people, do your due diligence.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, Angel, thank you so much for being on the podcast. How do people reach out to you if they want to invest, partner up, connect with you? What's the
Absolutely.
best way?
Probably the best way is just on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and that's I'm Angel Williams on LinkedIn. Or we have our website at Lauren Capital. It's LORRENCAPITAL.com. And you can find our investor portal there. There's some information about our properties, and that's another great way to find out more about us.
Awesome. Angel, thank you so much for being on the show today. Enjoy the
Absolutely.
rest of your day.
You as well.
Hey, for those of you who really enjoy Angel's podcast, who wants to look at more, click these boxes below and watch our other videos from other professionals, sponsors, operators, and I'll see you next time.